So it turns out that Jansari Code is not fully dead, only
Mostly dead.
there was a recent interview conducted with one of the producers of Code Geass, whose name is Kojiro Taniguchi. And through this article, we learned a lot of stuff about Janissary Code and, of course, Lost Stories. Let's start with the reason why you clicked on this video. Is Janissary Code and Lost Stories part of the same universe? Well, yeah, apparently. Both games reference each other with two specific references. So, in Arthur the Misty Streets, one of the families in it is named the Diesel family. And if you're not aware, the surname of the main character in this game is also Diesel. So yes, those are actually the same family. Now I haven't gone through Arthur the Misty Streets yet, so I don't know which particular family that is. But yeah, there's a reference to that. And then in Lost Stories, the Christmas event, William Bish apparently appeared in that story. I did go through that, I'm not sure who that was. Now, when you hear the name William Bish and you immediately don't know who that is because he's not as popular as, say, Suzaku Lelouch, Colin, C2, etc., well, you're not alone. But here's the thing. Let me remind you on who William Bish actually is. So remember that first year anniversary event, for Janissary Code, the one with the clones? Well, the guy who made the clones, Percy Frankenstein, used the research from William Bish. Yeah, that's the same guy. Which is why people now think that the main character might be a clone of perhaps Marion or someone else because William Bish is involved in the story. Or maybe that also explains why his aunt is part cyborg because, again, we have William Bish. So between these two references, they are actually part of the same universe. This is really frustrating because I was actually working on a script for all the universe in Code Geass, explaining it kind of like I did with the Watch Order and the Read Order. But now I have to rewrite the whole thing because I actually put Janissary Code kind of like its own thing, separated from the rest of Code Geass, and now I have to put it with Lost Stories as part of like the video game extended universe. I don't know, but I just kind of annoyed the fact that they are now connecting them. So with this new connection that we've learned about, does that mean we're going to get Janissary Code characters in Lost Story down in the future? Perhaps, Al, Gigi, I don't know, the Curate Archive, maybe Zio, Arthur, whoever in the game going forward. That'd be kind of interesting, although some characters wouldn't naturally transfer into a Nightmare Frame combat situation. But then again, Nina is a pilot and so is Millie and Shirley, so it doesn't really matter too much now, does it? But overall, yeah, it's the same universe. The interview then continued to talk about Janissary Code, so let's talk about that. As you guys know, the game is going to be shut down its servers, I believe, April, and then I think the app will stop working in June. However, Kojiro said that they are still going to release Zio of the End and Tosia of the Unwavering. If you're not familiar, there are 4 new characters with 4 new stories that were released with Janissary Code, which was Crimson the Blood Pack, Arthur Misty Streets, Zio the Unwavering, and Tosia. No, I'm sorry, Zio of the End, and then Tosia the Unwavering. We got Crimson the Blood Pack and Arthur the Misty Streets. We never got the other 2 stories, so apparently we're going to get them now. Now, you might be thinking this is good news, and yes, it is. I want to see those stories, especially Zio of the End. However, I'm kind of pissed off, and the reason why is because this pretty much implies that they never had to make a gacha game to begin with if they could release the stories in another form, like maybe a visual novel or a regular novel. So the fact that they're like, hey, even though the game is going away, we're still going to release a story, pretty much implies they didn't have to make a stupid gacha game in the first place. So while it's great we're getting these new stories, it does make you wonder why they didn't just give that to us as a separate thing and not even waste our time and unfortunately money with Janissary Code. I'm working on a video later on that will expand upon why I think Janissary Code failed and why it could have been a commercial success if they knew what they were doing. But again, that's another video. The next thing to talk about is the Lost Zero arc, which is going to be the next part of Lost Stories. Now, I believe it's supposed to be 2 parts. We went through R1, which is Chapter 1, and then they're going to have Chapter 2, which is R2. Although I do think they're going to add more to that. But anyways, we're having this Lost Zero story or arc. What's important about this is that it's going to show us what happened between R1 and R2. As you guys know, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the extended universe, including Akito the Exiled, Lancelot and Gurren, and of course Ozzy the Reflection. And so all those stories, from what I understand, are being part of this arc. They for sure announced Lancelot and Gurren. We've already seen Benio in actual cutscenes before we even finished R1. We're obviously going to get Ozzy Reflections, and they've shown all the characters for that. But we haven't gotten a whole lot for Akito the Exiled. I would imagine we will see them at some point, but no official announcement has been made. Kojiro said the point of this was so that when Zero is gone, you really feel his absence. Whereas in the original anime, he was gone from first season. and then by the second one, he's already kind of there. So here they're trying to make that gap between when he is here versus when he's not here is more apparent in the story. And I think it also gives us a good chance to just see more of the Code Geass universe, which is something that I feel Genocide Code failed at, because while we did get, I guess technically Akito Exile was shown in the story, they didn't really discuss much of Oz of Reflection or Reign of Darkness. Reign wouldn't apply here because it takes place before Nightmare Frames and it's a prequel, but the point I'm trying to make is that at least here they're like, hey, we have the extended universe, let's actually use that. And we'll talk about that later on in this video. But if they do this correctly and they put their effort into it like they've done in the previous stuff, this could be maybe the best part of the entire game, because unlike everything else, we've kind of already seen it. And having more time with the extended universe and those characters, especially those who have no idea who they are, I think could be one of the highlights of this game. And of course, the MC is going to get more time as well, which, let's get into that for a moment. One thing discussed about the MC, and I think it's kind of obvious based on how the story's progressed, but in case you're not aware or maybe you're not following the story, I'm not sure which, but he is not really going to be impacting many of the events in the story. So if you guys remember, in Code Geass Lost Stories, you could play as a character named Ray. Now, Ray had the ability to actually impact events in the story. For example, you get certain romantic partners, and also you could stop the SASS from happening by preventing Yuffie from killing all the Japanese people. Well, in this game, your main character, Mario or Maya, can't actually do that. Instead, your plot as the main character kind of takes place on the side, which is kind of how everything has been done up to this point. So that's kind of what the guy was saying there. They removed Miles so he couldn't use his Geass power to reveal the identity of your main character, either, again, Maya or Mario. Mario, sorry. That's why Mao was not in the story. Kojiro also said he already had an idea or he already planned out what's going to happen to the main character. Also, he's been dropping hints as to the identity of the main character, if you were paying attention. Same with his aunt. I've been going through the story kind of, sort of, so I haven't picked up on those hints yet. What's kind of frustrating is that once the global version comes out in the game, because we're so far behind the current release, what's going to eventually happen is the normal release of the game will learn everything you want to know about the main character, and the global version will be far behind. So we'll never really get a chance to experience those hints without knowing what it leads to. Unless you're lucky and you go into the game blind and you don't know anything about the story, but that's not how things work now in the days of the internet. So basically, because the global version will always be behind the actual game itself, we're going to know stuff way before we ever get there in the global release. Hey, there are some anime-only fans, so maybe if you apply the same logic to this between anime and the manga, then you might not get spoiled. Me personally, though, I probably will, because that's what I kind of do. So after discussion about the main character, they didn't talk about just updates we're getting for the game before the first year anniversary, which, by the way, because you guys don't know, I believe that's May. And they're going to have a new Monica unit, which was the winner of the fan poll many months ago. So we're going to get a rank 4 Monica, which is kind of cool. Not my favorite Knights of the Realm, but hey, if the fans wanted her, that's what they're going to get. So here's some updates they announced we're going to get in the upcoming weeks. I may have read this wrong, but I think they're going to be adding awakening stages for the different pilots. They are going to add 2D costumes your characters can wear. So if you ever play or go to any events, a character might wear a certain outfit that's exclusive to the story, and there's no actual pilot associated with it. So you might be able to put that on to different characters for the main screen only. I doubt the pilot will have it while they're in combat, although that'd be really cool, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They want to increase the pace of arena mode. They want to add extra stages of the challenge mode, I guess, in the first anniversary. I think they want to break it up by faction, which is what they've done in the past with the faction wars. They're going to add a subscription service for the DMN player. If you guys are not familiar, it doesn't have one. If you're on the mobile app, so this is the PC is a DMN player, and you can't actually do like the monthly pass or whatever, but they're going to change that so you can. The mobile version always allowed you to do that, but the Windows one did not. Or your PC. It could be Mac too, right? In addition to Monica, they're also going to expand the Knights of the Round in general, especially the ones that we didn't see much of, like Dorothea, which is great because I feel like one of the big mistakes of R2, and there's unfortunately too many to count, but one of them was the Knights of the Round were kind of rushed in the story, and so they want to spend more time with them. And that's what I mentioned before in my older video many months ago, like when they first announced the Knights of the Round, they gave more time to Nanit, Monica, and Dorothea, and now they're going to spend even more time with them. And I think it's going to be some kind of event in August, although I'm not entirely sure. But still, it's good that they're giving them even more time to shine. Of course, I could say with the rest of the extended universe, which gets us to our next point, which is that one of the purpose behind this entire game, which has been in production for 7 years, or at least it was an idea for 7 years, is that they wanted to connect all the extended universes together. That's why we're seeing Lancelot and Gurren, Oz the Reflection, hopefully Akito the Exile, and so forth into this game, which is really cool because one of the things I really wanted that will never happen was to remake the entire series, but have in mind this time, because those other stories came afterwards, we'll include them now into the story. What I mean to say is when Code Geass came out, that's all there was, which is an anime. There was no manga or anything else. Then they added all the extra stuff afterwards. So even though Akito the Exile chronologically happens between R1 and R2, because it came out after, of course, R2, the original anime doesn't take that into consideration. The same with Oz the Reflection, Running Out Darkness, Lancelot and Gurren, etc., etc. Because now they're going back through the story, you can now rewrite stuff to keep in mind those things existed. So my idea was, instead of doing it in a game like they're doing here, was to just make a brand new anime that had all those things in mind. Plus, you also can, fix the errors in the show, which there were plenty. Believe me, there were plenty. So this, in my opinion, is I think the best part about this interview and the thing that impacts me the most, because that's, like I said, that's what I wanted. I think that's what the fans wanted, and ultimately, it gives us more opportunities to explore the extended universe, which is something that Code Geass doesn't really do a good job of, considering most of the manga isn't really officially translated, and we haven't gotten new anime adaptations of anything. Well, we haven't gotten a new anime since 2019, when the last major series was an OVA. So they haven't really done a whole lot. So it's nice we're getting something in that regard. During the live stream, which I will discuss in a separate video, but just one key thing that people are probably wondering about is the global release of the game. And according to that live stream, we're going to get information about that very shortly. I imagine sometime, let's say in April, maybe the start of the Lost Zero arc, or during the first year anniversary. But I'll definitely say we're going to find out something really soon, which is exciting because, like many of you, I want to actually play this story, the story of Lost Stories, and figure out what's been going on. Because while I can translate stuff, it's just not the same. So I'm very excited about the global release of the game. Although I don't know, or I should say, I don't think they've decided where it's going, where it's not going, which I assume it's going to come here since that's one of the biggest fan bases of the IP. But again, we don't know for sure. My final takeaway from this is that it's really awesome that Code Geass, despite being over a decade old, over 15 years old, it's still very popular. I mean, the game Twitter page for Lost Stories has almost the same amount of followers as DMN Games, which is the company that made it, which is insane. During the live stream, they had this whole stage for this Code Geass Japan anime thing. It's really crazy how people are still into this show, and I'm glad that we're at least getting some form of content to, I guess, quench our thirst. But obviously, I would rather just have a brand new anime or several animes over, say, a gacha game. That's where we're at, and that's the current climate of how things are done. And what's crazy, that I revealed a lot of information in this video, but there's still way more things to talk about, which I'll be doing in subsequent videos after this one. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and share it. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on all this stuff. Genesis Code and Lost Stories being the same universe. Genesis Code is not even really dead. All the new updates coming out. And of course, the Lost Zero arc that's coming out. Subscribe for more awesome Lost Stories content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.